Should you go in with $100 a day budget? No, probably not. I don't think you would actually spend it in the beginning. Your ads don't switch on and immediately spend all of your budget in most cases. But if you went in with a higher budget, and it did spend your budget, it's probably going to be some junk traffic in there.
Welcome to the Dropship Podcast, where you'll learn how to build and grow a high-ticket dropshipping business and hear stories from successful e-commerce entrepreneurs. Let's kick this thing off. Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast. And today we're going to answer a question we get often from people like you listening to this show, wondering, okay, if I'm going to start, I need a budget for the course. I need a budget for startup costs to get Shopify things going. I know you've mentioned on the show, you can start for $500 or less, but what should I budget for ads? I think this is something we talk about extensively in our course. Here's what you should talk about, but I'm not sure we've ever talked about it on the show, John. So if someone's thinking about this, they want to invest in the course, they want to get started in dropshipping, what should they be thinking about I need to make sure I have this much money set aside to get started with Google Ads?
Yeah. So I think, in the course, where we tell people to start is, you want to start by setting a budget for your Google shopping ads, which are the first ads you're going to run for one of these businesses, at $30 a day. So $30 a day. So if you multiply that by 30, that's about $900 a month. And I think that's fairly consistent regardless of your currency as well, funnily enough. So 30 if you're in the US, 30 US dollars. If you were in Australia, it would be 30 Australian dollars. If you're in the UK, obviously you're talking pounds over there, and somewhere around that range as well. Similarly for the EU, we have a lot of students now who are in the EU, they've got euros. Once again, you're probably going to be a reasonably similar number in euros, in your local currency as well. So yeah, that's where we suggest people start at that number. And the reason for that is that, you could start higher than that. If you really wanted to, you could, right? There's no reason you couldn't start with a higher budget. I don't tend to recommend people go much lower than that though, because the way we do Google shopping ads, if you start with a really low budget, you're immediately going to hit your budget and your ads aren't going to serve properly. Right. And so that's not really a very helpful way to start your advertising experience. $30 just seems to be a bit of a sweet spot where you can get enough impressions and clicks to actually make some sales, right? And get a little bit of momentum happening in your business and start to learn about how the ads work and start to learn about your customers and how they interact with your website, get a bit of customer service happening, people calling in, starting to get to know your customer. If you go lower than that, I find that it's just things move a lot slower. And you're not really getting enough usable data into your ad account to really understand what changes you need to make, how you need to improve things. And so over years of experience, that's just a number that I think is a good place where you can get enough data, but you're not risking too much either. Right? Because in the beginning, sure, you're going to have some traffic that doesn't convert. You're not going to get an immediate return on that ad spend necessarily. And so you don't want to put too much on the table either. Because when things aren't optimized, and they're not as optimized as they're going to be the day you start running ads, obviously, if you've got too much money on the table and you potentially spend that, you're going to waste some of it. Right? So should you go in with $100 a day budget? No, probably not. I don't think you would actually spend it in the beginning because your ads don't switch on and immediately spend all of your budget in most cases. But if you went in with a higher budget, and it did spend your budget, it's probably going to be some junk traffic in there because you haven't actually gone through the process of optimizing your shopping campaigns and your negative keyword lists and all of that sort of thing because you haven't actually seen any traffic yet. And so that $30 number kind of gives you enough, but not too much. Do you know what I mean? And of course, you can build things up pretty quickly if you see the returns and the good traffic coming in. You can choose at any point in time to go from 30 to 40 to 50 to 70 to 100 if you need to.
And I'm sure there's someone listening who in the beginning is like, $900, John. What if I don't make a sale, right? I'll say a couple things on that. Two, one, sorry, Google wants you to spend this money and they're going to reward you to spend it. So
True.
you can 100% find a spend $150, get a $150 coupon. Like that one's the easiest one to find. They do make other coupons. One is spend $500, get $500, right? And so like I like to sleuth around for that one personally when I start a business, because you're going to spend that $500. And if you can get the other $500 back out of Google for free to continue learning, as John says, that's a good thing. The other thing I would say is, like, if you set your ads up correctly, which John has done loads of training on lately, because we continue to get questions around this stuff of how to really focus in your dollars to spend in the right place, you're going to be spending those on clicks that matter, right? So in your high priority, you might be getting, if we talk pellet grills, you might be getting searches around pellet grill. That's not going to convert in the beginning, or sauna, right? Your medium priority, you might be getting brands, you might be getting types, one-person sauna, two-person sauna, three-person sauna, corner sauna, things like that. And then your low priority, you're getting the people looking specifically for a make and model of a unit that you carry. That's the type of clicks you want to get in the beginning. You want to get people right at the bottom of the funnel. And so if we can maximize these dollars to the bottom of the funnel, while I hesitate to tell anyone they're going to make a sale, I think there's an opportunity for you to make sales. There's an opportunity for your phone to be ringing so you can ask your customers why you're not making a sale and hopefully learn something from them. Spend the time getting your ads more dialed in. Spend the time making your website a much more beautiful place to be as a customer as you go on. And so hopefully that $900 thing doesn't scare people away, because there is a cost to anything that you're going to start. You have to get traffic in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you do. And I just went to the Google Ads website while you were talking, and there, the offer I get on the page, just ads.google.com, is $600 in ad credit when you spend $600. So you're going to spend $600 in your first month, and then they're going to load $600 worth of credit. So you're not going to pay again after that until you've spent that $600 in credit. So in total, that's like $1,200. So that'd actually take you into your second month if you were working with the $30 the $30 thing that we're mentioning here. Yeah, look, there's no guarantees. It's business, right? And if you want to be in business, you have to be prepared to live with risk. This is being a business owner 101. This is what separates the people who, one of the big things that separates the people who go on with it to the people who don't, is the people who go on with it can make themselves live with risk, a level of risk. And the bigger you want to get, usually that comes with a bit more risk, right? But you've got to be able to do that. And this is going to be your first real experience at risk in your business, right? Up until this point, there actually isn't really any risk. This is the point where you launch your business, you start paying for traffic. This is the first real point in the high ticket dropshipping experience that you're actually going to have to live with that risk. And yes, you may not see a return on your ad spend immediately. I mean, a lot of people do. Some people don't, for sure. Definitely. I mean, I was one of those people in my first business, in my first month or two. I think I probably spent a bit more on ads than I got in profit from sales that I made. Not like much less, but, I had to carry that for a couple of months, and then sales kept building up and ad spend didn't go up quite as much at the same time. And so I became more and more profitable, and over time then started getting a return on all of that, on that ad spend, and the return far outweighed the cost of running the ads. So I think the worst thing that people can do, people sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction to, if they run some ads and they don't see immediate return, is like, oh, I better just shut all this down then because it's costing me money. And it's like, that's literally the worst thing you could do, because you can't make anything back on that money now because you've shut everything down. And so in that circumstance, you 100% have guaranteed that you've lost. Whereas the thing to do is to keep going, because you keep going, you follow the plan, you do the things you need to do, and you do it consistently. You're always going to make more money than you spend on the ads. Like, honestly, over time. I mean, I think that's a much bigger commitment that I'm willing to give people, is that don't focus on what happens in month 1. That's not the measure of success. It's where are you at in month 6? Where are you at in month 12? Where are you at in month 24? And I would guarantee that anybody who's there in month 24, we've got students who are there in month 24, right? they're not looking back and going, oh my God, I'm behind on all of my ad spend. It's been such a terrible experience. Like almost to a T, those people are in front, right? So, you got to have a little bit of patience, and you've got to, acquaint yourself and get used to living with a little bit of risk.
Yeah, I think it's you might not spend the 900 either, right? Like I want to believe I set a similar budget. I'm just looking back, way back when. I love that this spreadsheet still exists. The first month I spent 562 in ads, right? Second month 450, third month 560, fourth month 600. That's when I got up to the 900, 1,000. That's when I got over 1,000, right? And throughout that process, I lost $50 in the first month. So I made 4 sales and I lost $50 covering all my costs. Like I think if you told somebody they were going to make their first sales and lost $50, well, they might not be jumping out of their shoes. They should be. They should be thrilled that they broke even and made sales, and people actually want to buy from them. And there's a lot going for them, right? The next month I made 7 sales. I made $500. I think if you told me $900 in the beginning, John, I personally would have been scared. I was deep in debt. I wasn't making that much money working my job. I was making $40K a year, which is pretty good blue collar money back then. But so I empathize with somebody listening to this who's only thinking about what negative 900 would cost them in the beginning. Whereas, again, Google's 600 for 600 is a pretty good deal from Google. I'd be thrilled if that offer existed for any new business, as well as, you're probably going to spend about the 600. So now it sounds like you have about 2 months runway to really listen to your customers, probably to make a couple sales, and really continue working on calling brands and uploading more products and working on getting your website some traffic from other places, refining your ads, things like that. And if you broke even for those 2 months while all of that happened, you should be thrilled. You should be absolutely thrilled. Now, of course, we want way more than that for you, but like you should be very, very thrilled. And more so, you should be seeing the signs that says, this works. I need to dial this in and take this to a level that, really is truly profitable.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I say this a lot, and I think, once again, this is not what I would have thought when I started at all. If somebody said this to me when I started, I would have been slightly shocked. But like, if you can acquire customers at break even in the beginning, right, you're winning. You're winning at that point. You really are. I can't stress this enough. You're winning, because going from break even to profitable is not that hard. Like, it'll come. And if you can acquire a lot of customers even at break even, you're still winning, because every time you acquire a customer, there is other value in doing that than just thinking about it purely from a profit perspective. I mean, there are businesses that run at break even for years to grow their business, right? To acquire a massive customer base so their business becomes more and more valuable. And then at some point they, there's businesses that sell that have never been profitable, that like go public, never been profitable and stuff, because they're building something really big that has other value to having something that big than just the profit number. There is other value in growing your business that way. That's not just about purely what are you putting in your pocket every day or every week or every month. And so I think, if you can be in that position, I know a lot of people in the beginning, they feel bad about that. Like, I've had people on coaching calls, they're like, oh, I'm just breaking even. I must be doing something wrong. I'm like, no, dude, you're doing really well. That's a good thing, because the tweaks you need to make to turn that into like 10% net profit and then, 15% net profit or whatever, they're not that massive. The fact that you're selling things to complete strangers on the internet is a massive win, right? You've never done that before in your life, and now you're doing it. Like, that's a huge thing. That's a win, not a fail. Do you know what I mean?
Terrible analogy, but like, think, a lot of people would either quit there, right, or start over, right? And so like, try to think of something in motion. Think of a car in motion, and you need to alter its path a little bit. When it's moving, it's pretty easy to alter its path and exponentially go in a different direction. If the car's sitting still, what are you going to do? You're going to pick it up like a lady with her kid caught underneath it and like lift the thing up and move it to the side, or start over and like, start on a new trajectory. Like, I think often I get the same calls as you, John, where I don't think people see the value in the momentum. And if you're already running and you're already making sales, good things are going to happen moving forward. And it's going to be much, much easier to identify the levers that will make things happen in your business. Yeah.
It's so much harder to make sales than it is to make profitable sales. Like making the sales in the first place and being able to make more sales is way harder than finding a way to make sales profitable. In my view, like the harder part is making sales in the first place. And so, like I say, if you can make sales and they're at break even or maybe a tiny amount of profit, but not like the profit margin that you would like to see, you've still won most of the battle at that point. You really have. It might not feel like it. I totally get it. You might look at it and go, or you might look at other people who are like, oh, I'm making this many sales and this much profit. And you might look at them and go, well, I'm doing something wrong because I'm not making the same level of profit from my revenue. But that would be a really poor way to look at it and a very short-sighted way to look at it, which I totally get people being in that mindset when you're new because you don't really know any better at that point. But 100%, you're like so close to where you want to be, you probably don't even realize it, but that's a good place to be.
I imagine there's a lot of people sitting here listening, thinking, okay, now I understand what I need to do, but they need that kick in the ass, John. Give them a kick in the ass for me. Would you what can we do to help people get off the edge? There's hundreds, usually thousands of people listening to each one of these episodes. And I know somebody's sitting there saying, okay, now I know what I need to spend on ads. Now I know what I need to do to get started. What can we do to finally push them over the edge? And if you're listening to this and that's you, leave a comment below. What can we do to help you get started? But I know John's got a rant in him, and I'm putting him on the spot right now. So I'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, you just need to take the first step. I think, a recent episode on the show, I talked about, people being in, freeze state where you're like, you've got a big decision ahead of you, something you need to do, but you kind of like there's risk involved, there's the unknown, there's the fear of failure, and you're just not doing it, right? You're kind of like paralyzed in place about this decision. And that's where I think a lot of people are. And a lot of people who listen to this show who are like, I really want to go and do that. I really want to get started. Just take the first step. The first step, set up a business, start setting up a little business. Like, I'm not even going to tell you to go and buy a course. Like, I mean, just go back to the first episodes of this podcast if you've never listened to them. I mean, there's over 300 now. So you might have come in halfway through, or you might have come in the last 10 episodes. Go back to episode 1 and just do the things we tell you to do in those early episodes. Like, you just have to start. And it doesn't matter how, like, take a really small first step. Set yourself one goal. Like, I'm going to come up with a niche idea, right? And lock something in. Don't think about anything else. Don't even think about how am I going to pay for this, right? You don't need to pay any money to find a niche. Literally, we've told you how to do it like in about 5 different episodes on this podcast at various points. Go and listen to that and do it. Find yourself a niche. And then once you've done that, you're going to feel a bit different about the process. Then what's the next step you can do? Once again, you can do it with almost no money. Set up a little website. Get a logo designed for your business. Get a little brand name. Come up with a brand name for that business in that niche, what it might be. And I just want you to start taking just the small actions, because every time you accomplish those small things, you gain a little bit of a sense of momentum and you start to think differently about what you can do. And those may sound like really small things, but there are things. There are things that you haven't done yet. So start doing those things and you'll start to feel better about it. You'll feel a sense of momentum, and taking the next steps, which probably at this point might sound more and more scary, are going to feel easier. They're going to feel like more natural progressions, and you'll find that, if you keep doing that little bit by little bit, you wake up in, 2 months and you've got something in front of you that's very different to what you have in front of you right now. And then you take the next step, and then you take a bigger step. And that's literally all it is. Don't concoct ridiculous timeframes for when you have to achieve this shit. There's no time frame. You have unlimited time to do this. Right? You don't need to be successful in the next month. You don't need to be successful in the next 6 months. Whatever successful is in your head at the moment. You don't need to make X amount of money. You just need to make progress. So if you can go today, take one thing that puts you a little bit ahead of where you are where you were yesterday, then today was a good day. You just won. And if you do the same thing yet tomorrow, you take a small step, do a small thing, you won again. It's a good day. And that's the bar of success. If you can just do a little bit more day in, day out, that gets you a minute space ahead of where you were yesterday, then you're winning. You're winning all the time, right? And that's what you need to do. Don't worry about numbers. Don't worry about revenue. Don't worry about profit. Don't worry about this, that, or the other. Just focus on, I've got on my t-shirt, progress. That's all you need to do. That's how you start.
I put John on the spot, and he fucking passed the test, guys. He nailed it. So get started today. I pull it up too. dropshipbreakthru.com/Shopify. You can start your store for $1 for the whole first month, and they'll give you $50 to use in the Shopify app store if you go through dropshipbreakthru.com/Shopify. No brainer. Take your first step. So kudos to John. I hope our clips guy pulls all of that out of there, because that was gold, buddy. And yeah, we'll see y'all in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Dropship Podcast. You can find all the show notes for this episode at dropshippodcast.com. And if you're ready to take the next step in your dropshipping journey, we invite you to join us inside Dropship Breakthru, where John and I will walk you through step by step in starting your own high-ticket dropshipping e-commerce business. But that's not all. Dropship Breakthru will also teach you everything you'll need to know to grow your business and take it to the next level. So head over to dropshipbreakthru.com and sign up for our free training that will help you take the first steps towards building and growing your own profitable high-ticket dropshipping business.